This conference will now be recorded.
Here's Riley.
Yeah,
He has a key.
He has a key, but I don't know if he'll have it with him.
What is it, the 3 keys on?
That's our next key. We figured it out approximately. Approximately. Most places have.
We were coming.
Yeah.
How's it going?
I'm doing well over here. Good, Riley. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Anyone who happened to check, I'm pretty sure I emailed the dates and asked them to get added to the calendar. Was that done? Did anybody look?
Can you go there from here?
Oh, I didn't know if you just have like, oh yeah, I saw them.
I haven't been on there, sorry.
No, baby.
Oh, the calendar on the website?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I just saw later on, talk about
If
meeting
you didn't
dates.
do it, I bet it didn't get done.
No one did ask me, so All right. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ackerman?
Here.
Mr. Graham?
Here.
Mr. LaFever? Mr. McKinnon? Mrs. O'Rourke? Mr. Pitney?
Here. All right. We do have a quorum. And we will proceed with any conflict of interest tonight. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with any of the items that we're going to talk about? All right. I may have a conflict if we talk about the village administrator position. And if we do talk about something that may have a conflict with, let me know as soon as possible. We'll go on to changes to the agenda. Any changes in the agenda tonight? All right, hearing none, we do not need to approve any changes then. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Seth's coming in right now.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Now second.
All right. And we have, yep, we had Mr. Ackerman for a second. Ready, we'll have a roll call, please.
Mr. Ackerman?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. LaFever? Mr. McKinnon? Mrs. O'Rourke? And Mr. Pitney?
Yes. All right, that's approved. And
Why am I the anchor?
we will move on to public comment. We do not have anyone set up for public comment. We will go on to Public Works Committee.
Good afternoon, everybody. I've got 2 items there. The first item is the Clayton Court Water Main Looping Task Order. This is for the engineering. This is coming from committee for a total of $48,500, coming out of account number 5144532.
All right, 48,500, but what account? I didn't get that.
5144532. And this is for the engineering for the Clayton Court Water Main.
And that's coming from committee, so I do not need a second. Any discussion on the pending motion? All right, if there's no discussion, let's have a roll call when you're ready, please.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. LaFever? Mr. McKinnon? Mrs. O'Rourke? Mr. Pearson? Mr. Pitney?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
Mr. Ackerman?
Yes.
You never know what's gonna come out of it.
I don't want to talk.
Oh, it's not Smith.
That's true. That's approved. All right, we'll move on to approval of invoice for Pitney Construction.
All right, this approval is for sidewalk construction that was done for a total of $6,280.
All right. And is this coming,
This is
From committee.
not coming from committee.
so we need a second to that motion? And I would ask that Mr. Pitney not second that motion.
I will second it.
I just want to make sure we do not have a conflict of interest. And I just want to ask you a couple of questions just to make sure. Are you related to the owner of the business?
Yes.
Okay, and what's that relation?
My father.
Okay, do you have any ownership interest in that business?
Interest, yes.
Okay, is your interest more than 7% or 7.5%?
Yes.
Okay. You're also employed there?
Yes.
What's the total amount for this?
$6,280.
Okay. When was this construction started? Do anyone know approximately when the work started?
July.
Okay, and do you know approximately when the work ended?
2 weeks ago.
Okay, and did the board approve the expenditure previously?
The budget for sidewalk repairs was approved.
Okay, and the reason why I'm asking these questions is there is a conflict. It could be a statutory conflict, which if it were to be that, you could have no part in any of this. There are certain things, like if you have under a 7% or 7% interest in a company, then it's not necessarily a big problem, but there's also then a cap of the amount. In certain ones, it's a $20,000 cap, and some it's a $4,000 cap. The fortunate thing is the work started before you were a board member, and the budget was approved before you were a board member, so it's not as though you authorized the contract to be done. It was authorized through other means, so you were not part of it. So in this sense, I think you would have to abstain from voting on the approval of this because you do have that conflict, but you're not approving of the contract itself. So I think you're okay. But I just wanted to lay this all out so it's recorded. So if anybody were to come back and say, oh, it's your company, the reason why you're allowed to do it is because it took place before you were a board member, because you became a board member in the September board meeting. So I just want to put that on the record, okay? Mm-hmm. But you would need to abstain from voting. All right?
Understood.
All right. Any other discussion?
That is coming out of Fund 0142515.
Anything else? Any other discussion? All right. Let's have a roll call, please.
Mr. LaFever, Mr. McKinnon, Mrs. O'Rourke, Mr. Pitney,
So I abstain.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Ackerman,
Yes.
Mr. Graham.
Yes.
All right, that's approved. Anything else from Public Works?
That is all from Public Works.
All right, we'll move on to Community Development Committee.
Okay, this will not go as smooth as Jeremy's, but.
Oh, come on now.
I believe in you.
Okay, item 1, Memorial Park proposal. I don't know what everybody got to see. I think there was
I have
a,
extra copies.
And you'd emailed that earlier.
I had emailed that, but if anybody wants to look at a hard copy of the resolution and executive summary. It was emailed, yeah, we realized it didn't make it to the board packet.
So this is going around here to,
If anybody wants to
I
look
would
at it.
like one for my records, if that's okay.
Yep, I just had extra, I've got the original, and then,
somebody else want one?
well, that would be
This is-
part of it's the resolution.
This is the resolution.
And the executive summary, they go together.
That goes with that.
And then here's another
Sorry.
packet of the same thing.
Anybody else want?
I didn't make them all the way around, because I know not everybody uses the hard copy.
I'll take one.
You go right.
Somebody made copies, huh? Might as well.
Sure.
That's all right.
Unless I have.
so the bid that's attached to the executive summary, that's the one from Game Time. It was more money. It did have a grant attached to it. So just briefly, why we didn't go with that one, even with the grant, which was actually more or less a sale on the equipment, it was still ended up being more. And that's not totally clear here. There's 2 separate pages, one for a total of $77,830, and the other one's $106,150. You'd have to add those together. So it ends up being out of our 165,000 that we're asking for. The Burke quote, which is the original quote we had received for years now, we've had a quote from them, we keep renewing it. It came out to be 146, 213, I believe, 218, something like that. 146, yeah. And that included 7 pieces of equipment, where the other one was 6. Now, what the other one did have is a little more of the PIP surface, which is the ADA surface, the cord in place, they call it. It's just more area. It was still only under 2 of the ADA features. Burke's is under 2 of them as well, and includes a pathway to the side, at least one sidewalk. We're working on maybe getting another sidewalk. That's why we're asking for the 165, which is the total we had budgeted for this. Again, one of the reasons we're doing this is the IML came and checked, I believe it was IML, looked at the equipment and found 2 pieces to be not safe. So this has been looked at for a few years before me. I took hold of it when I got here, and that's where we're at. It will include mulch, possibly rubberized mulch. We're still talking about all that. But the whole area out there will be redone with new equipment, 7 pieces, and more inclusive than we are now, because they count mulch as an ADA, minimum requirement. We're going to be more than that now, so I think that's important too. That's the reason to do the whole park in itself, I think. So that's where we're at.
And that's going to include installation as
That
well.
does include installation. It does not include removal. I talked to Mr. Insko about it. He has no problem removing. It also does not include, we're talking about removing a couple trees and things like that, but community development we'll get to that later. This is just for the equipment and installation materials for the Memorial Park, is what the 165 is for. The quote was for 30 days. We're out of that. Again, that's why we're asking for 165, just in case it moved a little. It did come down from last year. So even if it moves back up, we still might be right where we were for a quote of last year. So if I've said enough.
Did this come from committee? Did the committee make a recommendation to?
The committee did make a recommendation for this, yes.
So then we do not need a second. It's coming from committee. So we'll open it for discussion. Any discussion on this?
Tell me the amount again, because you talked several numbers. I did catch
Up
up.
to
on
one-
it.
up to.
165, yes. And I don't have an account number. I need Sally for that. Didn't know that.
It's 17,47912.
And I'm sure this answer's in that number. Was it 150 that we put further from the grant toward the playground?
It's in the budget notes here.
When you're ready, the resolution number will be 2023-20R.
20R.
Yes.
R for resolution.
Right here's the original.
Thank you. Seven 17-47-912.
Yes, that's
That's one, okay.
what he said,
Yeah.
or she said.
I got that from Sally
Oh, yes.
in the executive summary.
I see in the notes it says 160 for park upgrade. It doesn't say how much was coming from that grant though.
Right, 100 of it was from the CURE grant
Okay.
and the rest from reserves.
Here's your report.
We've been talking about this for so long, I don't remember what we put in there, so I was.
Came into the budget.
Any
That was
other,
already there when
any other discussion regarding the pending motion? All right, if there's no discussion, roll call please.
Mr. McKinnon, Mrs. O'Rourke, Mr. Pitney,
Yes.
Mr. Ackerman,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. LaFever.
All right, that's approved unanimously. And I just want to say, Mr. Ackerman, thank you very much for taking the lead on this and for getting it to completion, because it has been sitting out there for a couple of years and just hasn't, we really haven't addressed it the way it needed to be. So thank you.
I think it'll be nice.
Yeah.
It will be nice.
Thank you.
And for the committee too. I mean, people.
Okay. I just passed them.
Yes.
That it.
Second item, planning and zoning. Now this one came, but I think it's pretty, this one did not go through my committee. So there's a recommendation from planning and zoning to the board to grant the zoning change from county general industrial to village district 4. County IG general industrial to village district 4 general industrial for the property located at 1515 South Meridian Road for commercial business of Lawn Care by Walter, Inc. Rezoning ordinance, pre-annexation ordinance.
Yeah.
Which is this going to be first?
This was first is the the zoning map amendment, so that's the ordinance for the zoning map amendment. And the reason it's coming at this time is because the zoning board didn't have a quorum for a couple of meetings.
Do we have a motion then? Let's
No.
get the motion and then we'll have discussion.
So I'm looking for a motion for what I just said, the rezoning
For the rezoning
on
ordinance.
1515 South Meridian.
I will make that motion.
Do we have a second?
My second.
All right, we have a second. All right, now open for discussion, Mary.
The reason it's coming at this time is because we had previously had the public hearing both on the zoning map amendment as well as the pre-annexation agreement, but the zoning board did not have a quorum for a couple of meetings where they would make their formal recommendation. And so that's why it's being presented at this time to amend the map, but everything's been done. The only thing that you do not have here is the map that will be recorded with this. Kelly's working through Wingis to get that map taken care of, so. She's gone this week at a seminar, but when she gets back, we will get this recorded, assuming it passes.
This will be ordinance 2023-08.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion regarding this motion? All right, hearing none, roll call please.
Mrs. O'Rourke, Mr. Pitney,
Yes.
Mr. Ackerman,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. LaFever, Mr. McKinnon.
All right, that's approved.
Okay.
And then the next thing, and I know it read as an ordinance, but it's actually a resolution. And that resolution is to authorize the village president to sign the pre-annexation agreement. That you saw a long time ago, the pre-annexation agreement, but that was when it was initially brought before the board for discussion on the pre-annexation agreement. And so with the zoning comes first, and then the signing of the pre-annexation agreement. So that's why it's authorizing the village president resolution to sign that pre-annexation agreement, for which there's already been a public hearing.
So I'd be looking for a motion to allow the president to sign the pre-annexation
Yes.
agreement.
I will make that motion.
My second.
That's gonna be,
2023-21R.
thank you. All right. Any discussion regarding the motion to approve that resolution?
The zoning map amendment one first.
If there is no discussion, roll call, Mary.
Mr. Pitney,
Yes.
Mr. Ackerman,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. LaFever, Mr. McKinnon, Mrs. O'Rourke.
All right, that's approved.
Okay, the next item is also from planning and zoning. So what this was, there was a recommendation from planning and zoning to affirm 209 West Main Street and I believe the property next door to it. That's northwest corner of Main and Benton, so that's right out here. As District 3 general business after holding a public hearing to ensure desired public comment. Now, in community development, I went through the zoning, 1957 zoning ordinance, and there's a little blurb in there, paragraph, that states that the zoning map is part of that 1957 ordinance, and I believe Mary will back me up on this.
That's correct.
It's gonna come back. to you.
Trustee
Good luck if
Ackerman,
you
we're
come
gonna
back.
make him a honorary
So-
attorney.
Yes.
So this makes us able to, I believe, write a letter that, or maybe it's already done, I'm not sure.
Well,
What? So we're not going with this recommendation from planning and zoning is what?
we don't need it because the 1957 zoning ordinance had a little blurb in there that said it was adopting the map, and the map listed that those properties as general business
Already.
already. And that's what we couldn't find an ordinance that dealt with that, meaning those specific properties. And so we haven't written a letter yet, only purposefully because we have to talk to zoning board chairman Bill Emmert, just to see if he wants it to come from him, the confirmation. I have had contact from attorney Tony Phelps, who represents Mr. Hubbard. So we're dealing with that, but we don't need, you're correct, we do not need to take any action on that matter.
We just wanted to make sure we said that zoning did put that recommendation forward.
And as long as we don't make a motion, it'll die and we just move on.
Correct.
So the next item is a discussion for trick or treat. October 31st from 5 PM to 7 PM. Don't think we need to do anything. Everybody's okay with that? Do we actually vote on something like that? I don't know.
We usually don't.
Yeah.
You know, if there's gonna be a change to that, but usually we just schedule it, talking with the police department and, yeah. So that'll be the time.
Could mix it up, we can do a different day, and work out real well for the other communities.
I think we'll keep this. I don't want to make the news.
No. So it'll be officially October 31st, 2023 from 5 PM to 7 PM.
Correct. That's it from community development.
That wasn't so bad. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
No problem. All right, we'll move on to police committee. I don't know if anyone is able to.
It's you.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna do that.
You're on a roll.
Yeah, I thought you would take it, but. So, police committee, the first item is the approval of the UTV ordinance. So I think everybody had that in their packet.
That's correct.
Don't know.
Did that come from committee as a recommendation?
It did, but we have to, Mary, Chief White pointed something that wasn't in there.
Okay?
Believe it was,
It was just,
Mary added that,
it was just a change to the language as far as the Harkness property
Oh,
was
yeah.
concerned. Because it said, you could operate the UTV on paved surfaces. So the park district has surfaces that are walking paths and bike paths that are paved. So I wanted to clarify that, and Mary clarified that by changing the language
It says no park district.
there
to
will,
indicate that they couldn't be operated
park
on.
district parking lot is allowed,
Yes.
but not the paths or the grass. And
We
we
didn't
are
want-
getting signs to
We didn't want
put on
anybody
those
to
paths.
misconstrue that the paved surface was
Yes.
something they could ride on.
I thought also, Chief, that,
I asked the stuff about the suspension of the permit, that was already in there. That was the other aspect of that.
and I thought it said in your summary, Mary, that you put in, oh, I can't find it, that you put in there that police would be the ones to.
Oh, to enforce it, or I'm sorry, to check it, but that was no way would be guaranteeing the safety of the vehicle.
Right,
Just inspecting it to make sure it had the required items.
those were some minor changes that were made since it came from committee, not,
So that's why I
Just-
don't need a second.
so we will need a second for that.
Are you making the motion?
Yes, no, well, I guess I can.
Yes.
So
I'll make the motion.
Let me ask this before we get into that, just for procedural things. we've never had this as part of our requirement that we have a first reading and then a second reading and then approve it. A lot of municipalities have that. A lot of school districts have first reading, second reading. And I don't know if this is because of the magnitude of this and the discussions that we've had, if this is a proper one where we would want to have this tonight be the first reading and then come back at the November meeting for the second reading and then approve and then have the vote on it, or if you feel confident enough to just have it brought up like we've done the other ordinances. And I'm just making that point.
Is this discussion or is this before discussion?
This is before the discussion, so I just want to make sure if, and then someone can make a motion whether you want to approve this or, whatever, but then another motion can be made over top of that, after that. But I just wanted to bring that up before we move forward.
I thought it was very well done. You guys did an awesome job on that. And it very clearly listed out all sorts of rule safety. People under 18 have to wear a helmet. You can't drive it by yourself unless you're 21. I thought it was very well done as a whole. I would be fine with voting on it right now. My only question is, since we're missing half of the board, do we want to wait until next month?
What can happen is with any type of an ordinance like this, it's fair to have it put on the agenda again if any of those missing members felt that they didn't get an opportunity to weigh in. I've seen it before in other municipalities and other settings where they can. I don't know that they would feel the need to, but it is
I will
probably to
say-
bring it up again.
Well, I will say Mr. McKinnon voted yes for it out of committee.
So, so if it's coming from committee, great. If we have to have a second, if someone wants to make the motion, we can have a second and then we can discuss a little more. And then the trustees that are here can determine what they want to do.
I'll make the motion for the
That
ordinance,
resolution or
providing the use of UTVs on
I'll
the streets with a 90-day extension. So it's not valid for 90 days, waiting on the county, giving the county enough time to approve Cunningham Road. They have to approve that.
And that's already contained in the ordinance,
Correct.
that provision.
Yes, it is.
So it would be effective 90 days from today, is that what you're
90
saying?
days from the date of approval.
And I will second.
Whatever that is. So, and we have Mr. Graham with the second. All right, so we can open it up for discussion, any discussion.
Again, just because of the magnitude of this, sort of like when we had video gaming and when we had, when we went with the liquor licenses in general, I would feel better having the full board here to make the voting in case, a lot of them were gone for personal reasons, but in general, I do think it was a very good, very well written, and I think it fixed all of the issues that we were discussing as a whole. I also don't feel that by putting it off until November, it's going to make a huge difference because it's about to snow and people won't be driving around anyway.
Oh, you'll find a few, I'm sure they'll be out riding them in the snow.
True.
Well, again, it's not effective for 90 days, so, and they have to get their permit, so it'll be a little while.
I guess if Mr. McKinnon voted it in committee, and if us three voted it, that would be a majority anyway.
Did trustee O'Rourke discuss it at police at all?
Yes.
Yes, she would.
And she?
The only stipulation was the change in the language for the partnership property. I think that was really the only thing. There was a question about whether there was a verbiage in the original ordinance for the ability to suspend or revoke a permit, and that I found was already in there. So that's in there. And the only other thing I think we spoke of was the inspections side of it. And the checklist is actually, the list of items that each vehicle would have to have is in the ordinance. So it's just basically making up a checklist. Somebody from the police department going through and making sure that those vehicles each have those items.
And trustee LaFever is also in police committee, and was he in agreement with?
Yeah, I messed up the names. I apologize. Mr. McKinnon did not vote at a committee. Mrs. O'Rourke did. And Mr. LaFever.
Okay, so
I had the wrong
everyone,
committee.
so everyone,
Committee vote.
that's all right. So it would be, trustee McKinnon would be the only one that has not
Yes.
been able
My
to voice
apologies.
his opinion on this. Again, it's up to this board members that are currently here as to how you want to move forward with it. As Mr. Ackerman said, there are two that are not here that have approved of it already.
I have no objection to voting on it tonight, so.
So
Either.
is there any other discussion? So since we don't have any other motions preceding this one, let's have a roll call vote, please.
We gotta give it a number. I was waiting for you to
Okay.
settle.
Yep.
202309 is the number that it will be.
Is it 09?
09.
Thank you, Mary.
Mhm.
All right, so we have ordinance number 2023-09.
Who made it?
He did, I seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Oh, I got it up here. Never mind. Sorry.
You're fine. Whenever you're ready.
That was my phone being down the door.
Mr. Ack?
I'm sorry, is it too late, can I ask one more question? Okay. I did not see anything regarding golf carts. And we didn't want golf carts, we wanted UTVs because they could go fast enough to keep up with traffic. Do we need to specify in there what did it say specifically a definition of a UTV?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That was it then.
Yep. Thanks for the clarification.
Yes.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ackerman?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. LaFever, Mr. McKinnon, Mrs. O'Rourke, and Mr. Pitney.
Yes.
All right, and thanks again, Mr. Ackerman, for taking the reins and moving this forward and interacting with the residents and those that are involved with this.
Welcome.
So on that, it's approved.
We got one more.
And
I want to say one more thing about that. I know we don't have the resolution yet, but I'm going to take, I would like the permit fees to go to fireworks. That's our plan. So there will be a resolution for that in the future. I just thought since it's recorded and anybody listening that just went through, that might help soften the blow or if they're opposed to it.
Fees to fireworks.
so that is something that will come from community development to have a resolution to authorize
Next
those
month or
fees
two.
go into the fireworks fund.
That's right.
Right, because
Perfect.
Fourth
trustee
of July
Ackerman and I had
fund, whatever it's
discussed that,
called.
and I asked him if he wanted it for this meeting.
Right.
And he said, no, we'll just hold off, let's do this month.
I did only in the fact, I just wanted it mentioned.
Yeah. And no,
Got it.
Can be done anytime.
all right,
Now we gotta do the
now we have a
resolution.
resolution approving UTV permit application and waiver form.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So that's a separate resolution.
Correct.
So the permit, I need a motion approving the resolution for the UTV permit application and waiver. Mary wanted these out of separate from the ordinance. Thought that would be
Yes.
best, and that's what they are.
Right, because we can change the application form from time to time, so we don't need to change the ordinance then. So is that coming from committee, or did the committee approve this resolution for the form, do you remember?
I don't, we better,
Okay, we'll just get a
Yes, I mean,
second.
the chief had mentioned to me when he called that they were okay with it, but I don't know if they took a formal.
So
I don't know,
let's
that
do-
was-
I
don't think we
Let's
did.
do a motion in a second for sure.
Yeah, there wasn't a specific
Motion for,
for the actual application on that. It was basically the ordinance that was approved.
okay, so we would need a motion. So you need the motion and we need a second.
I'll make a motion for approving the permit application waiver form resolution.
I'll second.
And the number is 2023-22R.
Thank you. All right, any discussion regarding this resolution? And this form looks good. So thank you, Mary, and for the police committee team in getting that together. Any other discussion? When you're ready, we'll take roll call, please.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. LaFever, Mr. McKinnon, Mrs. O'Rourke, Mr. Pitney,
Yes.
Mr. Ackerman.
Yes.
That's approved. Thank you.
Okay, and since I'm rolling, I'm gonna do finance, no, I'm just kidding.
Hey, why not?
Run the whole meeting here.
Oh, goodness, all right.
You're having so much
You
fun.
don't want to take over.
So we are going on to finance now, so,
All right.
let's let you go, Mr. Graham.
So, hopefully everyone has seen the new bills and they are beautiful. They're all pretty, a full page, they're in envelopes now. And this itself, the bill could go into multiple different committees, but since it's dealing with money, finance has just really been talking about it. But it could have gone anywhere. We have our new system in place where you can pay your bills online as well as view your bill online. And this is different than the previous online billing that we've had, because technically, as a consumer, it makes no difference to me. The money gets taken out, I don't know any difference. But what's actually happening here is the village employees here have to go up behind the scenes and collect all of that money, and then it's not a seamless process. So we've changed to this new system, and it's been working very well so far. We've had a few different people trying it out, as well as it was pushed out to the community, and we've had quite a bit of community support in this. Long story short here, in hoping to become more technologically inclined, we are wanting to offer an incentive starting on January 1st that anyone who transitions to the new billing software program and views their bill online, meaning they will not get a physical paper bill, will save $1.25. And for those that want to continue to receive a paper bill, the $1.25 service fee will be on there, and that would for the cost of the ink and the paper and the postage and all of that. So again, it's an incentive. Everyone would be applied for this, but the incentive would be $1.25 taken off of your bill if you were to do the online.
Each month,
So-
each month?
Each month.
So
That is correct.
let me be clear. I get my water bill. I'm not charged a fee right now. January 1st, if I get a paper bill, there'll be an added fee of $1.25. If I go online, there'll be no additional fee. So you're not taking $1.25 off of my bill if I go online. It's just gonna be the current bill, there's no fee.
Correct. We are adding $1.25 onto everyone's bill regardless. And if you have it online, you will get that $1.25 off. So we're not punishing those who are staying paper. You are just getting an incentive to not have to pay that if it's online.
Okay, but it says here, if you pay online, you have to pay the $1.25.
No.
Doesn't it say that?
Were you looking at?
You're looking on the agenda itself,
Yes.
It says to pay credit card fees.
which is
And
another
paper
part of
billing.
this.
It's two things.
Yes. So that is part one of this.
So part one, you just were talking about the second part first, the paper
The
billing.
paper.
Correct.
Paperless.
Yes.
Saves $1.25,
So-
and then you're gonna talk about fee for credit cards.
So I'm doing a few things here. There's two different parts to this one, as well as informing everybody of the new billing software, if you were not already tracking this.
Does it alert you that you get an email or something?
Correct.
Okay.
You
very
do get an
good.
email
Very good.
saying, and it's all right there, how much it costs, everything.
Yeah,
Great.
I've been getting this for the last, 3 months or so, and it's terrific. Even got the bill in the mail, and the neighbor came over and he thought it was a scam because he never received one like that before, and I said, no, it's legitimate. So we've had some good feedback on the bills.
And also with the current way we're paying, like the way I was paying online, that method will sunset in, I believe, did we say March?
You mean the customers paying their own credit card fees?
No, the old way where the community is paying online right now.
Yes, hopefully. I haven't notified them yet.
We're looking
But
around.
that's- Yes.
Yes, we're looking around March, so everyone who is currently paying online will have to transition to the new system anyway. Because what's the old system called again? I'm sorry.
E-pay.
ePay.
Oh,
So anyone who's currently using ePay,
Okay.
that system will sunset probably March-ish.
Okay.
So they will have to either physically come in, or if they want to continue paying online, we'll have to change over to the new system anyway.
So the new system, is that open to the public right now, or is it just? Okay,
Yes.
so
It's kind of everything's overlapped right now.
that's okay, I just want to make sure.
And I believe it was actually posted on the fancy new paper bill where you could pay online. That link as well.
So, yeah.
Oh, it's on that bill. I was gonna say, how do you know to get to this? Okay.
Correct, yep, it's on there as well. So that was letting everyone know what's going on. So,
Send Jason a big bill, he doesn't even read it.
that's
I
right.
know.
But my question is there a chance it's gonna be $250 if you get a paper bill and pay by credit card?
Well, that's
Well, we'll get to
what
that.
he's getting to.
So the second part is the village itself has absorbed the credit card fees for years.
For the whole time.
Correct, since we've ever had e-pay. Starting on January 1st as well, we as the village are no longer going to, this is what we're proposing, no longer going to accept the credit card fees, and the consumer will have to pay those fees. So depending on if you've got Visa, maybe it's 3%, if you got American Express, maybe 5%. We do offer though the ACH, which is the automatic check something, whatever it stands for there, that is free. So if a customer wants to have it go straight from their bank there's no additional cost. But if, for example, I want to pay with my credit card because I want the points, that's fine. I'm gonna have to pay the credit card fee because I'm using my credit card.
For ACH, they would set up with their account number.
Correct.
It's not, to clarify, it's not your debit card or something. That would still have a fee.
That should not have a fee.
The debit card should not have a fee.
Correct,
Okay.
but they are different. You are correct. But the debit card should not have a
ACH
fee.
is different.
Yes.
There you give your
That's a
routing
basic
number, your
version.
bank.
That's automated clearinghouse.
There you go. Thank you.
So as you're talking about, it would be Google, you would have your bank account information for the ACH. And typically, like
Yes.
the state of Illinois through the Secretary of State, when you renew your license, it has that fee typically at no charge. I think a credit card you may have to pay. I think the county may do that with the property taxes, or they used to do that with the property taxes. I don't know if they still do. So there are governmental entities that do charge for credit card usage, but don't charge if you use your bank account.
And is it, can you set up auto pay if you're?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep. And so
Great.
that can still be all free for the customer
Right.
and no fees are charged at all unless they want to use a credit card.
But aren't you, most places, I think, though, they set a percentage. Like I know you mentioned that some places charge one credit card may charge 3%, one may 5%. But I think normally they just set something, like normally it's 3%.
Now, usually they say a convenience fee of 3%.
Right.
And then if it's more than that, well, then the entity absorbs that additional cost, but.
So again, the three parts here, we're kind of all over the place, but part one, any questions about the new billing software? Or the ways to pay?
No.
Okay. Part two, is the $1.25 add-on to everyone's accounts that will be removed if you go to an online so you do not receive a physical bill. Any questions or comments on that?
Paperless.
Paperless, yes. You receive an online bill.
Okay, and what's the what are you explaining to them is the reason for the $1.25? The administrative fee, I take it,
Correct.
for issuing all of you people paper bills.
Correct.
And then say if you elect to be paperless, then you'll get a credit.
Correct.
Okay.
Because there's postage,
Right.
there's time, there's
Right.
Paper, ink.
Envelopes.
And currently, the village absorbs about between $400 and $500 a month in credit card fees. So I think that will offset the $1.25s that we're reducing.
And what about, does $1.25 cover it? Because I'm one of those people, I want my paper, but I pay more than $1.25 to get paper. Normally, like the banks, it's $3 to get paper. So do you think it covers it by $1.25?
We chose that amount based on what the software provider charges per transaction. So we didn't actually
Count.
base it on our administrative fees.
Okay.
And anything, if it does cost more, we as the village would eat the difference, but the idea.
But it's offset by the
Yes.
credit card fee reduction. Yes,
So the-
sorry, Jeremy. I
Yes,
didn't-
no, you're fine. And then, which goes into part 3, any questions or comments regarding the customer paying their credit card fees starting January 1st? But we do have the ACH and debit cards where they can pay for free.
But at what
And I think-
percentage is
And I
that gonna be?
think Attorney Gaziano brought up a good point, that maybe we should have a flat 3%.
So we had discussed that.
Or doing a flat $1.25. I would say a percentage would be the best way to go.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we had talked about doing just a flat percentage and then calling it a day.
Yeah.
But the
So I am still in the talks. We've been working on this software for over 2 years. We're finally to the point where things have been coded, like the new bills, and, but there is a power struggle between me, the software people, and the merchant, the credit card merchant, as to how all of this works. When I talked to finance, it wasn't clear to me if we could do that, our own percentage, because I thought the merchant had to post that. But I've since found out that we can do that on our software. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think we can do that.
A flat rate.
So,
Yes.
so we would eat the credit card fees, but then charge
3%.
our own rate.
Right.
Or whatever it is.
So if we, so we don't know, because each type of credit card could have a different, like ones with points may have a higher percentage than those without points. And so you might have and we would have to find out, what our merchant provider charges us a percentage, because that's what happens in my business. I get charged a percentage and I know what that percentage is, but it can be different if it's a different type of card. So we could look at that and say, what's our most expensive percentage? We could charge that to everybody, or we could look at what's an average and then charge that to everybody. And I believe the circuit clerk used to do that, or still does that.
They have like a scale
Yeah,
based on the amount.
certain places would charge just a straight percent. And then I don't know that we would ever know, like if Mr. Ackerman uses a credit card and the merchant that we used would charge 4% because he used a different card than Mr. Graham, who he would charge 3%.
We do get that information.
Would that show up immediately upon the charge? And if they,
Wouldn't that be harder to track?
I think, yeah, because if it's in the software where he puts it in and it automatically calculates what the transaction fee is, that would be the best, because then that person would be charged exactly what the transaction fee is.
Yeah.
I don't think we can do that. So then I think we have to anticipate what is a percentage that will be charged, and our merchant supplier, whatever, I can't remember the second part of the merchant, the one that processes it would be able to tell us a range of the percentages. And then I think we would just have to pick out of the air, this is the percent. And then, again, we might have to eat the difference if some.
Like what other merchants do, like Mary pointed out.
Yeah.
They must do it for a reason. They must not have software that picks it out, so ours probably doesn't either, is your point.
So,
Correct.
so when I guess I didn't have a full understanding of how it worked when we first set it up 2.5 years ago, and now just trying to remember it all. But they asked me if those charges were posed to the customer or to the village. And at that time, I said to the village, but then my thinking was that we would just reverse that. But I don't know if then that comes from our software or if it comes from the merchant to the customer directly,
And I guess it would, if there's a way that it would be processed to the customer and the village sees out of it, that might be the way to go. because then all fees are paid immediately upon them entering their information, and it's a fee to the individual. We just get our flat amount that they're billed. That would be the optimal way to do it. If we can't do it that way, and we have to pay our merchant service provider a transaction fee, then we'll probably have to use a percentage. And there we're looking at 3%.
A median or something.
So how does a gas station have two separate prices, and how do they charge? They charge for a cash price and they charge for a credit card price.
Mhm.
So that would just be
They had
determine
4
what that
cents.
percentage is, right?
Well, to them, they
Sure,
looked at,
flat rate.
yeah,
Because they have to pay the credit card company to process, it's basically a processing fee, is it not?
so they've already figured out what price they want to charge for you.
That gives some restaurant 3% when I go there.
The hardest part
Yep.
is talking to either the software company or the merchant and having them understand what I'm talking about. And so, I just probably need to take a day and just call them both and just say, this is what we want.
Yeah.
Who does it?
Would you, I mean, if there's a time, I don't know, like in November, I mean, I would be glad to help to sit down with a conversation, because I have some experience, not a lot, but some experience with that. I understand a little bit of it, so I don't know if that might help. But if you want, I can help, but if you want to make the initial call and be able to get it done, that's fine too.
Okay. So I apologize for kind of hijacking the meeting here. It was more of a just figuring out in general, if everyone was okay with that, which then carries over. We don't need a motion or anything like that. Sally believed that there was some type of ordinance that said, hey, we are going to accept the credit card fees. So if you could look into that.
That we already have.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if we decide to change this, we'd have to find that resolution. and
I knew there
amend
had
it.
to be an ordinance, right?
We have one. I know we do for credit card processing.
But I don't know, I couldn't find it.
Okay.
So if you could look for it, and then we as a finance will continue to move forward with this, we'll have the answers, and we'll come back in November with a motion.
Yeah, so everyone's,
Great.
I think that's a good deal. I think that's good. Thank you for putting that together.
And that's it for finance.
All right.
That's fun.
We'll go on to admin team and clerk. There's a resolution creating the village administrator position and job description. I'm going to not be part of the discussion for this.
Who's gonna lead it then?
I'm gonna find where the original was too.
I mean, I can actually.
Who hasn't done something to me, right?
Well,
I mean,
how
Jason,
about if I-
well, I can say, who makes the motion, but I'm not gonna be part of the discussion.
Right.
Well, since I'll have the original here and trustee LaFever, if it's all right, I'll tell you.
Absolutely.
Part of your board packet was the ordinance creating the position of village administrator and adopting a job description. That job description I know was worked on by village staff, and then it went through various committee people to take a look at. Sally Bennett and I then went over it, and she had pared it down, and we looked at it for completeness and just continuity and things of that nature. And so then that got sent to the appropriate committee, and nobody had any issues with it. Now, I do want to tell you then, so we put together the ordinance, because we have to create a position before we can fill a position. And thought it would make sense to adopt the job description as well. Now, I won't go through all the whereases because you've read all of that. But what I did want to point out to you, and I mentioned it in the executive summary, is that I took a little liberty because I looked at some others and saw the types of information that's put in there. So you have to decide if this is really what you want. Starting in Article 2, I did make a provision that the village administrator would be employed by contract, and that the terms of which would be agreed upon by the village administrator and a majority of the corporate authorities, and the term would be for no less than 1 year. I will tell you that I did mention that to trustee LaFever, and he thought that it was a good idea. Again, he's one member I know, but I was using him sort of as my sounding board because he had spearheaded this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Is there a reason for 1 year?
it just
Rather
has to
than
be
a
no
longer
less
period?
than 1 year. Shall be no less than.
So it could be a
Could be
2 or a 3
2 year,
year.
could be 3 year. But I had seen Everything pretty much I saw that provided the key thing is going to have a contract, because nobody's gonna come from Cucamonga, and then you decide 3 months later you wanna get rid of the position. And then you can make it longer, whatever.
That's why I
But yeah.
questioned the year though.
Yeah, but that's, the ones I saw said for no less than.
No less than.
So, and again, this, as I put in the executive summary, and I tell you all the time, I don't take ownership over any of this, and as far as the wording, you tell me if you want something different, I'm just throwing out there what a couple of different ordinances had shown. And then provision for that compensation to be adjusted from time to time as the village corporate authorities deemed appropriate, and they would enter into an employment contract which specifies the level of compensation, because of course what we have is a salary range that is in the job description, so they would work out the specifics, I guess. Person serves at the pleasure of the village president and the board of trustees and could be removed by a majority vote. It doesn't say that it is for cause. I'm just saying that the ones I've seen didn't say for cause, just said they could be removed. And I do see in Article 4 there that if there's a period or a comma where a period belongs at the end of the sentence. Before entering, one of the qualifications is that they have to be bondable. And this basically said that they need to furnish a bond. Again, this amount I'm throwing out there, I saw in a couple of them said $20,000 a bond, that the cost of that surety bond would be paid by the village. For those of you who may not be aware, a surety bond is where you get a bond through a company that basically says if that individual does not do his or her job properly, and there's loss to the village up to that amount of money, that they will pay it. And then, of course, they'll go after the individual. But it's like an insurance policy for the village. The $20,000, honestly, I thought was kind of low. But the reason I just, again, threw that out there, because I think it's going to depend on what level of financial responsibility or authority you give the village administrator, and I had no idea what you were going to do. So if things are still coming through the board and that person, everything's gotta be signed by 2 people or 3 people, well, then maybe a $20,000 bond isn't any big deal, because that person's really not out there having access to be spending the money.
I can maybe shed some light on that, and the
Okay.
discussion I'm gonna make is, typically you have to vote for contracts of 20,000 or more by the board, and you might give authority 20,000, less than 20,000 to an individual employee.
Okay.
I think that might be.
And I wanna say that amount has gone to 25,000, I believe it.
But I think it could have been 24.
But that could have been
and that's
why.
why it's at 20.
Okay,
So you might want to,
well, yeah, might want then, so you might wanna consider that if that's going to be the litmus test, that you might want at least 25. Then the job description that was attached as an exhibit would be the job description that would apply to the position. Of course, that could be changed in the future. We see this kind of as a working document because village administrator is a new position to the village. And then I put in there that if there were any provision that were legally unenforceable, that the rest of the ordinance would be legally valid, and that the effective date would be upon its passage, approval, and publication, which would be in pamphlet forms. So those are the things I really wanted to bring to your attention that I had thrown in there of my own, because I wasn't sure what you were gonna want, that it did provide for there to be a contract with this individual for no less than a year, that the authorities, village authorities, could remove the person, didn't have to be for cause, and that the bond, at least as I had put it, was $20,000.
Are there any other positions that have bonds?
Yes. Yeah,
The deputy clerk.
deputy clerk and the treasurer.
And what bond is that? What's the monetary?
It's paid through our insurance.
But yeah,
Grace just gave me that bill a
do
little while
you have
ago.
the total amount that you're covered for? Are you bonded for 20,000 or 10,000?
I was thinking it was 50.
Could be because of your position as the treasurer.
I don't know if this tells.
It should have something on there.
It might just say it's renewed.
It doesn't list out what it is for, just the amount that we pay for it.
Okay.
In that case, I would like to make a motion to approve all of this, with the caveat that the bond meets at least whatever the highest bond we have in the village is.
Say that at highest,
The highest, correct. So our
highest
highest
bond,
that we, for our positions currently. So if it's 50,000, it raises from 20 to 50. If it's 20,000, then 20,000, that's fine.
So we've got a motion to approve a resolution creating the village administrator position and job description with that change to the
Bond amount,
bond amount.
potential change.
Except it's an ordinance.
yeah, it's gonna be an ordinance.
Because it's long-term.
Yeah. Once we get a second, I'll get in a number.
It was just written down here.
I'll second.
Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so we have a second from Mr. Ackerman. Any discussion?
Pretty heavy things we're voting on.
Gotta have a bigger table.
There's no.
It's got a number,
discussion. Yep.
2023-10.
Thank you.
10, oh, you want to say.
What's that attendance like? Thanks.
Hey. I'm beginning to not be sure.
We'll have a roll call whenever you're ready.
Mr. LaFever, Mr. McKinnon, Mrs. O'Rourke, Mr. Pitney,
Yes.
Mr. Ackerman,
Yes.
Mr. Graham.
Yes.
All right, that's approved.
Can I ask a question
Yes.
while we're discussing this position? At the last meeting, it was suggested that the interviews be conducted by all 6 board members. And I question that from the standpoint, if we have 6 board members present, it's a meeting, we'll have to go into executive session, we will have minutes and a recording. And that recording will become public. As the person being interviewed, I'm not sure how many people want their interview out to the public.
Which means the maximum we could have is 2.
Why would that become public?
Well, it can,
Everything,
Eventually, all.
any closed session, we has to be reviewed every 6 months to determine if it's time for it to be allowed to be open to the public. And then Mary, I don't know
is
if
that
this is
something?
something that IML or you can find out, or maybe talk to our PAC to find out if interviews with potential employees can be kept confidential until that employee is no longer alive, or that potential employee. Because we wouldn't want the potential employer to find out that an employee was here interviewing and then listen to the interview. I just don't think that that would be proper.
Yeah, plus I just think too that there's information that will come out during that is highly privileged.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know that I
Personal
would
and
want
private.
myself.
So I would,
But I can.
so I think if we had guidelines from PAC or from IML or someplace, that would be very helpful, so that those that are interviewing, that those that are reviewing our closed session minutes from, every 6 months from here on out, have that guideline to know when it may be released, if at all.
Or either that, or we can reconsider having only 2 board members.
Correct, but they can't be on the same committee.
Committee doesn't matter, 2 people.
My suspicion is you could probably have the full board do a closed session. I think it can be privileged, but again, that's gonna be up to you. But whatever, but that can be determined at the November board meeting.
Correct.
I just think it's time to
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah, and it's long, of course, that's when you're discussing specific potential candidates. You can't just go into closed session to discuss the position.
Correct.
All right. No, I was thinking more in terms of interview of the people.
Right, that's, I know.
Okay, we'll move on to the president items. We have our meeting dates, October, November. Just to add, I don't know if we're keeping track of the Winnebago County Regional Tourism Facility Board That's the WCRTFB. We've been asked to be part of that over the last couple of years since we may get a hotel here. We've been interested in getting a hotel. They've included us in that. I've never attended the meeting, but that meeting is November 7th, 2023 at 2 p.m. And that's at the Webb's Norman Center, which is on South Main in downtown.
It's inside the post office.
Yeah.
building, right?
It's November 7th, 2 o'clock.
November 7th at 2 o'clock, yes. And I don't know if there's any other meeting dates or changes.
Speaking of meeting dates, I discussed the calendar, and finance, police, zoning, public works, they are all on the online calendar.
Also Liquor Commission, that will now be the third Wednesday each month at 5:30 p.m. And that'll start November 15th, 2023. There's nothing anticipated that night, but if there is, it would be a short meeting, if at all.
And then Frank, can you make sure that whoever, you still run that, don't you?
Right.
That it gets put on the calendar here, so that way there's no,
Okay.
yes, you said it's the third Wednesday, and I got that, but I'm gonna forget, I promise. So when I go to schedule something that's not on the calendar,
Yep.
I'm gonna schedule something right over it.
And so
Third Wednesday,
All
5
at the
o'clock.
same time.
it's gonna be the
5:30,
third Wednesday at
I thought
5:30 every third Wednesday. So it'll be like zoning and the village board meeting, it'll be automatically set. So that way our liquor license holders and those that want to apply for video gaming or liquor license will know, and our staff will know with a surety when the next meeting will be.
Community development is doing last Thursday, so.
Okay,
If you can shoot Kelly an email, just have her, just say that, and then she'll put it on the, or Nick,
Actually, Rachel.
okay, there you go.
okay.
Somebody.
Email somebody, so it gets put on this calendar here.
Yeah, Rachel's been managing that.
Perfect.
And then, any other things we need to know about? All right. The next item is releasing the hotel feasibility study, the update to that to interested parties. That was addressed at community development, and the members there were in agreement to release it to those interested in the study. We have, I would say, at least 4 or 5 different people through their places of employment that are interested in looking at this update to the hotel feasibility study. And I'll get that out to them this week, and then they can take that and see if it fits within their framework of having their brand or style of hotel. And the last item I have is discussing the village logo. I just want to get it out there that if you saw the water bill, you saw Winnebago Indians on there. And that's why my neighbor thought it was a hoax, because he thought, well, why would the village have something that says Winnebago Indians on it? And we need to have a distinct logo. I mean, Nick and I have this logo, which is kind of the village police logo or the village logo. And we also have, I don't know, Chad, I think this is a little bit different looking than the one that's on the water tower. Because the school district had their one. Mr. Heflin had done the original school district one, and then he also did the one on the water towers, an updated one. And I don't know if the school adopted the updated one that he prepared. He had given it to me to give to the school district to let them use it as they wanted to, but that we used on the water tower.
Actually, my conversation with the school district, they're going away from using the Indian,
Symbol.
That's how I figured.
if you notice, a lot of things that are associated with the school district now, they use the W, where one of the parts of the W is a spear, still emboldening, catching the American Indian aspect of it, but not a direct correlation to an image.
Okay. And so that's something that I think we should talk about as a village, as to, do we want to, as So I meant to rebrand the logo. And if there's a particular committee, and it doesn't have to be done next month, but I just wanted to bring it up and just see if there's any interest in looking into that. And then what type of committee? Do we want one of our established committees to look at it? Do we want to have an ad hoc committee? Do we want to appoint members just from the board and maybe some employees? Do we want to have residents be part of this, and help design and help think of a new logo? And then also looking at where we are and attracting businesses, where we are, what do we want people to see when they look at our logo? What do you want them to take away from that? So anyway, just happened to think about it and wanted to bring it up, and don't want to lose sight of it, but also don't want to say that it's got to be something to be done next month. So just think about it for a while, and then we can revisit it maybe in a couple months and just see where you want to go with it. We had nothing for executive session, so we'll go on to new business. And we have a NICOR franchise agreement renewal that was just received by me that I sent out. And the note here just says the finance committee reviewed these options back in 2020 and concluded it's better to stay with the unbilled therms option. I don't know if that's the same.
That's just a piece of the contract that's discussed in there, but it was something I investigated thoroughly in 2020, so I notated it on your copy.
Thank you. So this is something that needs to be looked at, and I don't know if finance wants to take a look at it. And I know you have intimate knowledge with part of that, so maybe it would be best that finance takes a look at it just to see if this should be approved as presented by NICOR, if there's any change to be made to that, and then we bring it back to the board when you're ready.
So they provided an ordinance. Is that something we would want Mary to take a look at?
Right, I think what you would want to do is provide it to Mary, but at the same time, the committee should review it and see what it states in that ordinance. And then do you want to make any changes from what's in that ordinance, and then have Mary ultimately make those changes, and then see if that'll fly with NICOR.
So it has to do with, I think, easements. Is that the gist of it? And should Public Works talk about it?
If there's anything like that, then
When does this have to be done by? Can we just, if that comes up?
it talked about November 30th, 2011. It said the agreement shall supersede the one that was on November 30th, 2011. I don't know if there was an expiration, but if they're looking at a term of 50 years from February 5th of 2023. Talks about meter reading. So I would have finance take a look at it, and if they find that there's something that they feel would be better suited for another committee, then to bring it back to the board and maybe see if the other committee wants to take a look at that particular issue, or if the trustees feel that a COW meeting might be appropriate for this particular item.
Well, the Finance and Public Works chair are the same person, so.
Okay, well, that is helpful.
I'll throw it on both agendas, we'll figure it out.
There you go. Thank you. All right.
So community development and finance?
Well,
No,
it'll go to-
Public Works.
It'll go to finance and public works.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to let you know that with the Safe Routes to Schools grant, we were able to submit everything to Farrah Graham by the deadline, the application deadline. It was before October 2nd that we got everything to them. And I don't know if any of you received a response saying that they actually did send in the application. I never saw a follow-up saying that they sent it in. I just know that they thanked us for getting them everything ahead of time. I don't know, Seth, if you know, if Bridget, you know.
I can confirm that.
Okay. I'm pretty sure it did go out, but, you know, but I just want to give an update to the board that we were able to provide all of the information and sign everything that we needed to sign, and the package should have gone. And while Seth is looking for that, we'll entertain any other new business.
Should we wait to adjourn until we find an answer?
Yes.
Yes. And if not, it's no big deal.
No pressure, Seth.
Yeah.
Hold us all here.
We waited to the last second to ask that. You had all day long, you could have looked it up. We waited until just now.
One time you show up here.
We
And then-
took your chair and made you.
Yeah.
And Riley, if you would like to make that motion when it's time,
Yes.
if you want, feel free.
Start in.
Do you want to sign ordinance?
So I have upload confirmation.
Yes.
We have an uploaded confirmation.
I have an upload confirmation in a second.
All right, thank you very much for that. So it has been sent out. So we'll just wait to get a response back. I think the last time it was about 3 months, 4 months when we got a response.
Yeah, it likely will be, selections will be probably identified in the early spring.
Yeah, I think February of whatever year that was, we received an update as to they were going to be deciding, and then I think at the end of February, beginning of March, they made the decision, so. All right.
Quick before we get into it.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn the
I'll
meeting.
second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you everybody for coming tonight.
7:16,
Wow.
so.
That's yours.
So, let's-